because I am a woman.
But is she? Well, let's get into the thick of it. And I'm going to show how both sides are wrong in the trans discussions issue between conservatives and mega liberals, okay? So, if you want to know if someone is a woman or not, you should probably ask someone who knows a little bit about biology and a little bit about the human condition. Someone like with a PhD in biological anthropology might be really useful, and someone who's also a professional philosopher. Hey, you found me! Hi! And someone who's not politically possessed and trying to advocate for an agenda one way or the other. What is a woman? That's what they want to know, right? Okay, cool. So a woman is the central cluster of a multidimensional vector that expresses in a million ways, many of which biology related, some of which performance related, some of which acting related. It's basically how a cluster of characteristics concentrates in a particular attractor. You can think of like two different states of being. One is more feminine and organized by female hormones and has female reproductive organs and female paraphernalia and so on. And one is male, and these are abetted and aided by performing in that particular way. So if you act like a man and your voice is masculine and you have masculine features and you have a functional biological system that is male, then you're basically like pretty close to the center of the attractor of this multidimensional vector that has a cluster of people around. And whatever the most central members here are gonna be like as male as you can possibly be. So a person like me who's like, I was born with the genetics of the male. I don't have any problem in how I process testosterone, and I'm mostly okay with the fact that society wants me to behave in a particular way. So the combination of characteristics, including performance, including identity, etc., that makes me be close enough to the center of the category male, right? And then there's a lot of other people around here, some of whom are more masculine than I am, some of whom are more feminine, and like Carl from the Carl Effect, he's much closer to like a male. Like functioning like a male both biologically and in terms of acting, but he's not as close as I am, or as like say Kris many years ago was. And then you have the same thing for women, where there's a combination of factors. Some of them are genetically related, some of them are biologically related in other ways. Biology is just the extension of physics by like living means. So it isn't true to say that someone is like a biological something because their genes are a certain way, because what really matters is what biochemical processes are regulating your biology. And that can be changed, right? Just like my eyes are different from my teeth, because I had a pluripotent cell that some type of gene activated it to change it one way or the other. You can also activate your genes to react in female or in male ways. And one of the things that happens with people who transition and who take hormones like HRT, which Kris is doing, is that they are switching their expression and the biochemistry and the biofunctioning of their body from one sex to the other. So, the left is completely like nuts and insane in saying that like just merely by identifying as a particular gender, you automatically become that gender. And the right is completely wrong and insane in saying that someone is the biological kind of their chromosomes. They're doing that because chromosomes are the hardest one to change. So in order to advance their political agenda, you have to pretend that like chromosomes are the full expression of all that matters in life and in biology. Both are false, right? Like you can express as a female or as a male, and you can biologically and biochemically behave and function as a male or as a female, even if your chromosomes are the other kind. It's just a more complicated and mediated process because you have to like push a few buttons here and there in the middle of the programming of your genes, so the different genes will express, and so that your tissues are going to consist, are going to function in a different way. So, for example, right, females, especially when young, they have skin that is better than males. So, people who go on hormone therapy and transition from male to female, they literally become more female in their skin, right? And the same thing can be argued to happen in how they perform in society, in how they're listened to by other people, in how they identify, and then in their biochemistry and in their biophysics. So both sides are basically wrong because the left is wrong in believing that you cannot fail to be a desired gender, right? Like obviously you can try to become a female and then you don't take hormones, you don't express well, nobody recognizes you as a female, you don't look like a female, you don't behave like a female, etc. You failed to move yourself to in that dimension, like towards the cluster of people who are more female-like. And so that's the way in which the left is insane. Obviously, some people fail to transition, even though like they might want it, right? Like or claim that they identify as. And the right is insane in saying that like the only thing that exists are people who are very close to the center of each attractor. Like obviously there is a massive diversity of like biological expression and artistic person and psychological expression in how people perform gender. The other thing that in this case is just like a lack of understanding of science on both sides. It hasn't even seeped into the politics yet. Is that people think that the amount that you're masculine is inversely correlated with the amount that you're feminine. And other than destiny, I haven't seen any political commentator talk about that. But that's not true. You can be very feminine and very masculine at the same time. And that still, that doesn't compromise your existence as a human or anything of that sort. You can be a person who is very low in femininity and very high in masculinity. Or you can be a person who's equally high in masculinity or even more, but also who has a significant contingent of ability to cognize, mentalize, speak, and function in a feminine way. Like if you're talking like to a hippie, a conscious community type of person who divides the world into like feminine and masculine, moon and sun. And you can take any dichotomy and you can kind of split it into feminine and masculine. It's kind of intuitive to our minds. And there are people who can express both, So I was a theater kid, so I have some level of expression of like femininity in me, but I am also extraordinarily, I'm unusually high, I suppose, in masculinity compared to at least the average male in English-speaking Western countries. I'm from Brazil, so maybe I'm more like average there in masculinity and high, and definitely higher in femininity there as well. But yeah, you can basically express different levels of masculinity and femininity, and those are basically kind of descriptions of behavior and psychological characteristic. And then if you want to go to like the gender itself or like the sex itself, that will have a higher load of biological composition, but that biological composition isn't determined solely by the chromosomes. So the right is insane to say that. So yeah, it's complicated. Both sides are wrong. You can fail to be a gender, but you can also transition gender and you can become the other thing. So going back to the original question, is Kris a woman? I think she's on the way. I'll call her a she aspirationally because, it's a person who's moving from one of the attractors towards the other. Her biochemistry is changing. Her performance has already changed. Her appearance has already changed. And give or take 3, 4, 5 years, she will be closer to the female attractor than to the male attractor. Whether or not the reproductive abilities are changing, that's just one of the many dimensions that constitute the cluster of things that we consider sex and gender. And that one might never change because we still don't know how to make uteruses, but that doesn't mean that he's male. She might still be a female just because she managed to transition in the majority of other characteristics. So I'll give her an aspirational yes. She is already a female. Sorry, right wing, you guys are just factually wrong. Take it from the PhD in biological anthropology, okay?